Components of computer network. So there will be the hardware components and the software components. So in the hardware components, we will discuss what are the servers, client, peer, transmission media, network interface cards, and connecting devices. So we need all these components for the connection of a network, and we can vary the type of the hardwares, but we have to utilize these components to establish a network. Now the first one is the servers. Servers are the powerful computers, and these are the core thing of computer network. So they are the facilitators. They have a lot of memory, they have resources, processing power. So all the end users are the peers, are the clients are sending requests towards the servers, and the server will facilitate them and provide the services towards the clients. So that has the high configuration and that manage the resources of a network. So the operating system of a server is different as compared to the individual computer or a personal computer. So the operating system used on the server facilitate the different users environments. So servers can be the various kinds: file servers, database servers, print servers. So according to our need, we can utilize any type of server according to our use, according to our capacity, according to our budget. Now clients, the persons who are connected with the servers, are the clients. The end users, the individual person who is working on their computer, that are the clients. So clients are computer that request and receive services from the server to access and use the network resources. Now peers are the computer that provide, they can act both as a client and as a server. So in some networking environment or in some networks, we make a scenario or we make a environment in which every computer is a sender and a receiver. The computers can facilitate the other computers, and they can also take the services from other computers. So these type of computers are known as the peers. So receive services from the other peers in the workstation. On transmission media. Media means the device that is responsible to send the data. So these are the channels through which data is transferred from one device to another device. So transmission media, because we need a path through which we can send the data from server to client, from peer to peer, or from one computer to another computer. So we have to establish a channel or a path that is known as the transmission media. So that media can be guided media, means physical media, or the wired media, and that can be unguided media, that using the medium, air medium as a source. So in transmission media, the guided media include the coaxial cable, fiber optic cable, and unguided media use different type of signals like microwaves, infrared waves, and other type of signals can or waves can be used to send the data. Now the connecting devices. When we are joining the computer, as we know, when we are using the wires or we are sending the data in radio wave forms, and so the language of computer is different from the language of wires, or these are the data that will be in analog form. So we need an intermediate device that can receive the data and that can identify, like if a server is working, the server must know from where the server receives the request and how it can send the data towards the other computer. So what will be the address of the next computer? So different things will be needed to guide the devices for the communication. So these are the connecting devices that has such type of instructions. So they that are the middle layer between the network or the computer by binding the network media together. So some of the common connecting devices are routers, bridges, hubs, repeaters, gateways, and the switches. Now we will discuss these one by one. Now, hub is a device that splits a network connecting among multiple computers. So we are utilizing a hub as a central device, like we are using a wireless modem as a central device in our personal area network that we are establishing at home. So, hub is a central device that is responsible to connect the computers and distribute the data. So, it works similarly to the distribution center when a computer requests information from one network or from the specific computer that it send the request will be sent towards the hub, and hub will recognize where to transmit that request. After that, every computer checks whether the network then belongs to them or not. So the hub then receives the when receives the request, it transmit to the entire network. So there is no identification of the computer. All the computers that is part of our network, the request or the packet or the data will be delivered to these computers. So if belongs to them, it broadcasts the request. Does not belong, it will be dropped. So it is on the end user. If it belongs to them, they receive, otherwise they will drop out. So such network computer components nowadays are very less in circulation because they can waste the time, because we want to make accurate transmission for, so that kind of transmission is not in the practice nowadays. So we are switching towards the routers and the switches. So the hub is used to connect the multiple connection that come from the different branches. So there is no similarity because the hub has only responsibility to broadcast the message. There is no identification of computer or addresses. So different sort of branches or different sort of networks can be joined by using the hub. Switch is a component that helps devices to connect the network so that they can transfer data to other connected devices. But they are different from the hub because they can identify uh, to whom the data will be sent. So these network switches are identical to the network hubs, but the switch has more advanced feature than the hub. So it does not broadcast entire data on the network like a hub. The advanced features of the switch imply that the network switch first inspects the incoming packet and determines every packet has its address. Along with that, in the header and the destination address can be identified by the connecting device switch, and by identifying that address, the packet will be sent towards the specific computer, not it will be sent to the all computers. So a network switch is called as a switching hub. Router. The router is a hardware network component. Routers operate at network layer of OSI model, reference model. That is a software of computer network. We will discuss OSI in the next slides. So, using them to send packets over a network using the logical addresses. We have two type of addresses. One is logical address that is generated by using the internet, and other are the MAC addresses. These are over permanent addresses that is written on the hardware. So any data which travels from one network to the another network as a packet, the router receives such packet data and frameworks in it to destination device after analyzing the hidden information in the data packet. This networking device is used to connect different networks, either it is a wired or wireless. So when we have to join different type of networks, we have to use the router. So we can say that the switch can join single network, but whenever we have to join multiple networks with one another, we have to use the routers. Modem, that is a basic device. Modem stands for modulator and the demodulator, as we discussed in the start. And the computer can only understand the digital signals are 0 1. So modem is a device that converts the analog into digital and digital into analog, because when we are using the wires will receive the data or transfer the data in analog form. So modem will receive the analog signal and convert that data into the digital signal, so the computers can understand that data and can manipulate that data. So it allow a computer such as a router or switch to connect to the internet. So it modem also has a port that can attach the computer with the connecting device. So it converts and modulates an analog signal from the telephone or a cable wire into the digital signal that a router or a switch can easily recognize. So similarly, when it converts the outgoing signal, when it receives the digital signal and it will send the data towards the wire, so it will convert that digital data into the analog signal that is called demodulation. So the speed of transmitting data by the modem is modifiable. The speed of transfer is measured by bytes per second (bps). So the faster its speed, the faster we can send and receive the information. Now the repeater, whenever we have to transfer the data at a long distance, due to the noise distortion, there can be breakage in the signal. Our signals become weaker, so we need the devices that can enhance the signal or make the signal powerful. So the repeater is a powerful network component that is used to regenerate the signal when it becomes weak or not as same as we have sent. So with this, the signal is fixed for a long time so that the strength of a signal remains stable and we can communicate at a long distance. Repeater takes data signal from the communication medium and amplifies them and send them back to the communication medium. So the purpose of repeater is only to strengthen the signal. When the signal becomes weak, this device copies the signal bit by bit and then regenerates to its original strength for making the internet connection stable. So repeaters are used in cables that have to cover the distance up to 100 meters or more than the 100 meters. So these components receive signals from the cable like fiber optic cable, coaxial cable, and the copper cables. Now the bridges, this bridge is a device that has such functionality that it filters the content for which it reads the MAC addresses. As we discussed, the other switch and the router can only read the IP addresses or the virtual addresses or addresses that are not permanent. MAC addresses are the hardware addresses. So these are the permanent addresses, and bridges can rectify or identify the MAC addresses. So the bridge connects two LANs using a same protocol. Protocol means set of rules. We will discuss the protocol in the software components. So these networks components are very useful for filtering the data load of the traffic, for which they divide them into segments or packets. Whenever they have a lot of traffic or a lot of requests are sending, they can divide their load. So the bridge controls the data traffic of LAN or other networks. Now, gateway is a hardware device that acts as a gate within two networks. As same, when we are entering in the gate, we have to we can identify different type of information. So it can be a router, firewall, server, or any other device that enables traffic to flow in and out of the network, only the relevant traffic. So gateways are used to connect the networks based on different protocols. As a bridge is used to join two similar types of network, the gateway are used to join dissimilar networks. So this gateway node is located at the edge of a network and all data flows through it and exit from the gateway. So in addition, it can also translate the received data that is received from the outside network into a format or a protocol that can be identified by the devices that are connected, like that can be a switch, that can be a hub, that can be a router. Now the software components. The software components includes network operating system that will be installed on the servers. So network operating system is typically installed in the server and facilitate the workstation in a network to share files, database, application printers, because the operating system will be responsible to manipulate or to calculate or to manage all the things inside a computer or inside a server. Now, protocol suite. So, a protocol is a rule or a guideline followed by each computer for the data communication. When we are communicating with all over the world, so we have to decide some set of rules so we can communicate and understand each other. because if we are not working on a uniform pattern, we will not be able to communicate all over the world. So there are some certain rules through which we are communicating. These rules, these guidelines are known as the protocol. So these are the protocol suite is a set of related protocols that are laid down for a computing network. So mostly there are the two popular protocols: OSI model, Open System Interconnection, and TCP IP model. Now we will discuss both models. They Now the next one is networking operating system, because there are two types of components. So first we will discuss the networking operating system. There are basic two types of operating system that can be peer to peer and client server. As we have discussed three types of computer in the hardware, that was the peer computer, client computer, and the server computer. And peer to peer we have different method of communication, and in client server network we have different type of communication. So for both we have to use different type of operating system. In peer to peer, every computer has a same status. They can act as a server as well as a client. So the in such an environment we have to use peer to peer network operating system, so the users can share the network resources saved in a common accessible network location. In this architecture, all devices are treated equally in terms of functionality. Peer to peer usually work best for the small to medium LANs, and it's cheaper to set up because there is no need to purchase the servers, as servers are very much expensive computers. So we can utilize and the normal computers as a peers, and we can establish a network. So they are inexpensive, but managing such type of computing environment at a higher scale will become difficult, because there is no central device that can take the record of the connecting devices or the authorization of connecting devices. So we utilize such type of operating system or such type of environment at a small to medium level. Now, client server network, where we have a central device, a server. We have to install a networking operating system on the server. So and that operating system will be responsible to share all the resources that is available on the server. So in this architecture, all the function and applications are unified under one file server that can be used to execute individual client actions regardless of physical location. We are not measuring the distance, how much distance is that request has. We are utilizing our in such operating system different type of algorithms and different type of rules are observed when they have a lot of requests. So according to them they can sort these requests and facilitate the clients. So client server tends to be most expensive to implement because it require expensive server, and maintenance of such type of networks and operating systems are also expensive. So an advantage to the client server model is that the network is controlled, because we have a central device that has every record. So it will make changes or additions to technology easier to incorporate. We can easily add the other computers inside that environment. Now the protocols, there are two types of protocol: OSI model and TCP IP model. First, we will discuss the OSI model, that is Open System Interconnection model. So it is a conceptual model. We are not, that model is not in implementation. Only that is base of other models. We and that model is has much details of networking communication and other models based on the OSI model. So in plain English, the OSI provides a standard for different computer systems to able to communicate with one another. So, OSI model can be seen as an universal language that of a computer networking. It based on the concept of splitting up communication system into seven abstract layers. So we can say that there are the seven steps when we are communicating or we are sending the data from one computer to other computer. The first one is application layer. As the name indicates, application layer means the layer at which we are utilizing a software through which we are sending the request. That software can be a website, a web browser, or that can be other software that supports the communication with the internet. So this is only the layer that directly interacts with the data from the user, because the user is working directly or communicating directly towards that layer. So software application like web browser and email clients rely on the application layer to initiate the communication, because we are sending requests, like we are opening Google and we are typing any query and we are sending. So when we are doing that thing, that will be a application layer. So the application layer is responsible for the protocols and the data manipulation that the server relies on to present meaningful data to the user. So on the application layer, it will be responsible to send over request or data in a form that can be understandable by the next layer. Now, the presentation layer, this layer is primarily responsible for preparing the data so that can be used by the application layer. In other words, layer 6 makes the data presentable for the application to consume. Any application, like if we are sending a mail towards other mail server or towards other mail, so it will um, convert that data in that form. So it is responsible for translation, encryption, or compression of the data. Encryption means in the encoded form, when we are sending any password that will be in other language, or we can say that that can be in a hidden form. So that is encryption. So presentation layer will make the data in a translate the data. Now the session layer, this layer responsible for opening and closing communication between two devices. Like when we are, we have start communication on the phone or on any other device, we have to establish a channel or a connection. So we can say that um 1 hour or 2 hour of the communication will be a session. So the session layer is responsible to make it possible between the two computers to make a channel, and that will be responsible to send and receive the packets or the signal. So the time between when the communication is opened and closed is known as a session. So the session layer ensures that the session stays open long enough to transfer all the data being exchanged, and then permanently close the session in order to avoid wasting the resources, because that line or that channel will be busy whenever the two parties or the two computers are communicating with other each other. And when they have stopped communication, that session will be closed. Like as we dial the number, the call will be gone towards the connection, and when we will ended the call, that channel will be free for another data transmission. Now the transport layer, as the name indicates, it will send the data from one where to another where. So that will be responsible for end-to-end communication between two devices. So this includes taking data from the session layer and breaking it into the chunks called the segments before sending it to the layer 3. So the transport layer on receiving device is responsible for reassembling the segments into the data that will be understandable or transferable by the layer number 3. So the transport layer is responsible for the flow control and the error control also. If the packet has any error or segment has any error, that can be identified. So the flow control transmission is optimal speed of the transmission to ensure that the sender with the fast connection. And the transport layer performs the error control on receiving end by ensuring that the data received is complete and requesting a retransmission if the data is incomplete or some of the data is missing.